In modern times, queer performers and stories are all over, but did you know queer history has influenced theater since its earliest beginnings? Welcome to Theater History Thursdays. Today's Pride Month topic is early queer influence in theater. Queer performance has been around for thousands of years. In many early theater traditions, performers performed outside gender roles on stage, and stories involving gender and sexuality were often a part of the performance. Historically, ancient theater reflected the values and stories of the cultures that created it. In Greece and Rome, gender-bending characters and men playing women in performances were common parts of theatrical traditions. This was also seen in Britain during the Elizabethan era. Since women were banned from the stage, men played female roles. This practice continued for centuries. It wasn't until the Restoration that women in England were allowed back on the stage. Even earlier examples of this can be found in mythology. The ancient Egyptian story, The Contendings of Horus and Set, includes what historians described as the same-sex seduction attempt between two rival gods. Some of the clearest examples of queer influence on theater came from ancient Greece. Playwright Aristophanes included references to same-sex relationships and gender expressions in his comedies such as The Knights and Thesmophorise, using humor to explore social attitudes at the time. Additionally, Achilles and Patroclus' relationship has been interpreted by many historians as romantic, and their story would later influence works such as William Shakespeare's Troilus and Cressida. However, attitudes toward homosexuality changed dramatically over time. By the 18th century in England, being associated with same-sex relationships could carry severe social consequences, making openly queer representation far more dangerous. It did continue to thrive in subcultures and in more underground scenes such as molly houses, which were gathering places for queer men to perform drag and socialize. Similarly, in traditional opera in China, male actors known as nendan played female roles, and female performers occasionally played men, but in society, there was still an aversion to queer acceptance off the stage. Alternatively, in Greece around the 18th century, stories featuring queer romantics were often used for comedy and were openly mocked on stage. Even so, theater continued to preserve traditions of gender-bending performances, but much of that history was not documented and is thus hard to find. In New Perspective Theater Company's On Her Shoulders program, we presented Gabriel by George Sand, a play written in 1824 that centers on the story of a young woman who has been raised as a man to provide a legitimate heir for her grandfather. She doesn't learn her true biological gender until a teen. The play follows Gabriel's struggles to maintain the male privilege she has always known while balancing her sexual desires in a heterosexual relationship. All the while, she switches back and forth with her gender presentation to different segments of society. In the end, she cannot reconcile the need to be boxed into only one gender expression and thus departs the world. The play was written during the Romantic period, which produced art in all forms, grappling not only with the idea of gender roles, but with the very definition of gender. That's it for early queer influence in theater. Stay tuned for more theater history with new perspectives.